Hello and welcome to the Federal. I am Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay. You're watching Off the Beaten Track. Several dramatic political events since January have charged up the run-up to the Lok Sabha elections next year. From a situation where there was growing unanimity on 2024 being a done deal in favor of the BJP, things do not look all that certain. The BJP is still the favorite, but other factors are being assessed too. Rahul Gandhi certainly has shed his Pappu image with the successful completion of the Bharat Jodo Yatra. The Hindenburg report revived allegations of crony capitalism and links between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Gautam Adani. Rahul Gandhi's speeches in Parliament and in London stirred a huge controversy. The budget session of Parliament was drowned in the din created by the Bharatiya Janata Party. And finally, Rahul Gandhi's conviction and disqualification from Parliament has opened numerous political possibilities. I will discuss all these issues and maybe many more, if time permits, with one of India's most astute political analysts and commentators, also the co-director of Lokniti, Professor Suhas Palshikar. Professor Palshikar, first of all, welcome to this program. It's really a pleasure to be talking to you. Since January, very dramatic events. In January, we were saying, let's sit back and relax, regardless of what will happen in these 9 assembly elections in 2023. 2024 is a done deal for the BJP, but lots of churning. What are the most important churnings and where do you think are we sitting as far as the political narrative is concerned now?
Thank you, Nilanjan. As you very rightly summed up in your opening remarks, from January onwards, the conclusion of the Bharat Jodo Yatra and a limited but important success of that yatra in making a dent in the overall way the media was approaching Mr. Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party actually began the process of some change. I agree with you entirely that this change is both dramatic, but at the same time not so dramatic to really have changed the entire political landscape.
Right.
What has happened, however, is that there now seems to be at least some punctures in the larger narrative that the Bharatiya Janata Party has been building over time. And therefore, I think there is a lot to discuss when one looks at contemporary electoral politics and party politics around us.
What do you think is the real impact of disqualification of Rahul Gandhi that has happened in the last few weeks?
See, if one is talking of public opinion or the voting, I don't see any direct impact of that because such things have a large technicality around them and therefore they don't really reach the masses the way one would have wanted them to.
Right.
But nevertheless, an important impact is that there is a realization among many recalcitrant opposition leaders and parties that the overall assault of the BJP is not going to stop at anyone or anywhere. It's a kind of battle to the finish. And therefore, you have either to come together to at least comprehend what is going on. I'm not talking of coalition and might be, we'll talk of it a little later perhaps. But the question is not whether the parties come together as a coalition, but whether the parties come together as a democratic alliance.
And to voice a certain opinion. To voice a certain common opinion.
And also an understanding among themselves as to what is the larger political scenario.
No, so I've been actually feeling that actually the reaction of the opposition parties was possibly being reminded of that very famous quote of Pastor Niemöller in Nazi Germany, that first they came looking for the communist, I did not speak up because I was not a communist. Then it goes on, socialist, trade union leader to everybody. So finally, when they came for me, there was nobody left to speak for me. That is what possibly prompted a large number of opposition leaders who had been taking critical positions of the Congress in the last few weeks. Let us look at the response of those parties subsequently. First, a bit more direct question. We are now looking at a situation where Rahul Gandhi is going to appeal against the order of the Chief Judicial Magistrate in a Sessions Court in Surat. Now, there was a thinking in the last few weeks that maybe Rahul Gandhi is not going to appeal. Maybe he's going to go on a Gandhian path and then ensure that he gets, in jail. There was quite a bit of worry within the BJP leaders. Amit Shah himself, the Union Home Minister, said that why isn't Rahul Gandhi appealing? Similarly, BJP spokespersons were also saying that why isn't he appealing? What's so much of a delay? Would you think that tactically it would be wiser for the Congress that Rahul Gandhi stays in jail and becomes the symbol of all that what they are trying to project is wrong with the BJP government?
I don't know. Really speaking, it was a very complicated decision for Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party. It is easy for us to say that he should have gone to jail, but it would have meant that he would be behind bars for 2 years, during which all elections during this year and the next year would have happened. And this is not a government which would allow him parole to campaign. Right. So it would mean that the only probably important leader of the Congress party who can have potentially a mass appeal would have been not available for campaigning. And that could have been a very, let's say, crucial blow to the Congress party. Secondly, I don't know whether this would have really created a sympathy wave for Rahul, because the way the BJP's machine works, it would have been argued that in any case, he was punished for criminal defamation, which has nothing to do with politics. He said something about the so-called OBCs, and he has been punished for that. And look, we haven't done anything politically wrong. So that probably must have weighed or must be weighing upon the Congress party. I don't know whether they have, Rahul has already appealed, but if he appeals, it's a catch-22 situation, because it is quite likely that the appeal would be turned down, and then he would still face the same scenario. So I know that the problem for the Congress is really complicated here.
You mentioned the issue of the BJP waking up that Rahul Gandhi by this statement was anti-OBC. How much of, do you think that this is going to be a successful way of targeting Rahul Gandhi? Will the BJP's line work with the OBCs?
See, it might not work if one looks at it very rationally. But at the same time, the way the Prime Minister and other leaders project their social origins whenever convenient to them, it seems that they would have been using that particular plank. And secondly, the larger point is that since really for the last 3 decades and more, the Congress has a very weak base among the OBCs.
Right.
Look also at the important allies or potential allies of the Congress, like RJD in Bihar and so on. And you will again find that their base is among the OBCs. And therefore, this can distance them. It can caution them from supporting Rahul beyond a certain extent. So there are possibilities to this. And the Congress doesn't have an OBC face, really speaking, to counter this argument. And of course, finally, the bottom line is that we must remember that we are not living in the times where logic works, where rationality works. And in any case, in politics, logic and rationality always take a backseat.
Right, that is in fact true. Now, there has been another very important development in the last few weeks, is that Arvind Kejriwal has suddenly rediscovered, I'm very consciously, I'm using the word rediscovered, a very strident and biting criticism of the Prime Minister. He's taken up, a real hard line as far as his, connections with Gautam Adani and the Hindenburg report, all the allegations that were made, and also about the educational qualifications of the Prime Minister. He's actually called all kinds of names. Some of the words are in fact very derogatory. He would possibly only escape defamation because he spoke it inside Delhi Assembly, so kind of gets the benefit of not being charged and accused of defaming. Why do you think Arvind Kejriwal has suddenly taken this? Is it because he's not wanting the anti-BJP flank to be monopolized by Rahul Gandhi and the Congress?
That yes, but I think he has finally realized that for Aam Aadmi Party, for his own party, this is a moment of survival. It's just not the arrest of Manish Sisodia and charges against him, but the way the every step of the Aam Aadmi Party has been blocked from time to time, either through the governor's office or through otherwise, seems the BJP is bent upon finishing the Aam Aadmi Party. And once any state party or smaller party or multi-state party realizes that the BJP is out to finish them, they will fight back. This is not just true of Arvind Kejriwal. This is equally true in Telangana of KCR. So both of them. And now probably is the turn of Mr. Naveen Patnaik, I guess. So one by one, when these parties will realize that it is not just political defeat in one election, but a fight to finish that the BJP is waging, that they would raise the pitch. And that is what Arvind Kejriwal has done.
Now, we are talking about Arvind Kejriwal. You mentioned Manish Sisodia. Would you say that the arrest and the case being pursued against Manish Sisodia, does it have any chance of being seen by the voters, especially the Aam Aadmi Party voters, as politics of vindictiveness?
In Delhi, definitely yes. Because in Delhi and adjoining territories, the Aam Aadmi Party continues to have a goodwill among many cross sections of the society.
Right.
Whatever, irrespective of the facts and irrespective of the way it unfolds in the courts, it would be seen as something very deliberately to corner the Aam Aadmi Party. So that is bound to happen.
Right. Do you think that as far as Delhi is concerned, it is actually, we have seen the rise of the Aam Aadmi Party from 2013 onwards. Do you think that Delhi has kind of settled to a polity where the people are opting for the Aam Aadmi Party at the state level to run the state government and the BJP at a national level? That means that Arvind Kejriwal in the local level, Narendra Modi as a national leader. Is that actually the final way it is panning out?
Absolutely yes, but I would add to that this is not confined to Delhi alone.
Right.
This has been happening in many other places. Data shows that right from 2018, in fact, there was this duality in voters' mind. That at the state level, we want this change, but Mr. Modi is a good leader for the country, and therefore let us vote for Modi in the national elections. So you find that trend in Madhya Pradesh, you find that trend partly in Rajasthan also. Why only these two? Because they are anyway BJP-dominated states. But you also find this in a sense, West Bengal, where you find that in subsequent assembly elections, Mamata Banerjee won the elections.
Did very well.
Yeah.
Now, we are talking about West Bengal. After the elections, assembly elections in 2021, where the BJP definitely did not perform as was being expected in the beginning, and Mamata Banerjee performed extraordinarily well. It also eliminated the CPM and the Congress virtually in the state. And subsequent to the elections, we have actually seen a crisis of organization for the BJP, in the sense that a large number of people who had crossed over to the BJP went back, or the organization has completely collapsed, it appears. Do you think in 2021 it is going to be a dominance of the Trinamool Congress, or whether it's going to be very similar to what was in 2019, where the BJP did very well with a large vote share and winning as many as very close to 20 seats?
With two players like Mr. Modi on the one hand and Ms. Mamata Banerjee on the other hand.
That's right. Highly personalized campaign.
Highly personalized politics and highly politically astute. It's difficult to surcharge, but astute also. One must give credit to that kind of political smartness to both of them. With them, it is difficult to say. But my sense is that the honors would be split in the 2024 elections. Particularly the way consistently the BJP has been trying to further communalize the electorate in West Bengal and create a Hindu Hindu consciousness among the voters, I think it would not be so easy for Mamata Banerjee and her party to just win hands down because she has a majority in the assembly.
Right. The other main issue, which has happened since January is, of course, the Hindenburg report and allegations of, Mr. Modi's proximity with Gautam Adani. Do you think it will play in the minds of the people in any way during the elections?
See, elections in any case are 1 year ahead of us yet.
Right.
But as of today, I don't see any political traction to that issue among the general public. As far as public opinion is concerned, it is only a small circle of opinion makers who have been talking about it. Even newspapers are not really much talking about it, as we know. And unless the media and the opinion makers really start saying something very substantial about this possible nexus between the two, I don't think it would seep down to the electorate. So if one were to ask the voters this question today, they would either say we don't know about it, or they are likely to say that we don't believe that Modi is involved. They won't be worried about what Adani does or doesn't. They would be willing to blame Adani, but certainly not Modi at this moment. So the noise that is being created is more in a smaller circle, and that is where the failure of the opposition at the moment consists of, that they have been unable to reach out to their own workers and through their workers to the voters that yes, there is something problematic in this relationship.
One of the paradoxes which has surfaced actually through several of these surveys of Lokniti is that while people do feel very strongly on issues of what we call bread and butter issues of roti, kapda or makan, the old phrase, that while people are worried about rising prices or about jobs not being there, especially also the mishandling of the COVID pandemic by the government, the terrible second wave of the pandemic in 2021. Despite that, the BJP continues to be the most preferred party for a large number of people, and that is what enables the BJP to get a majority. How would you explain this paradox, and do you think that voting people would in any case vote on the basis of basic livelihood concerns?
During the 90s, this roti kapda makan thing was translated into bijli, sadak and pani.
That's right.
As you but since then, in spite of the shortcomings of the present government in providing basic necessities, the government has somehow managed to convince the people that its governance record has been much better than the record of the previous government.
Right.
Now, what is in political discussions described as narrative building is where the strength of the BJP lies. Right. That narrative, despite personal sufferings of the voters, has not really been yet fully fragmented or fractured. People believe that yes, I do suffer, but Modi ji is doing something. And there comes the second point, which is that the Prime Minister and his electoral machine, campaign machine, has successfully delinked the many failures from his persona.
Right.
And that means that he remains above all these limitations, criticisms, and power mongering, etc., etc. He is above everything else. For the first time, probably in the last 4 decades, since Indira Gandhi's time, we are having a leader who has been able to detach himself from absolutely all failures of the government and create an image. The distinctions between Indira Gandhi and Prime Minister Narendra Modi are two. One is the extraordinary use of image building today, which was not done and not even possible, technologically speaking, in Indira Gandhi's time. And secondly, therefore, perhaps, her aura, in a sense, spanned barely 4 to 5 years. If one begins with 69 bank nationalization time,
right,
then by the time the JP movement begins and takes off,
in 74, it's exhausted.
Whereas in the case of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it begins in 2013, not
That's
14 really, it begins
The
in
13th,
2013.
in fact, yes.
And we are now in 2023, and we don't have any evidence that that aura, that popularity, and that trust created by his electoral machine have anyway diminished critically or diminished much. That's why we find this paradox in the data and the outcomes. That the data would tell us, look, the government is probably going to be defeated. And when you look at voting patterns, you find that
That's right.
poor and lower caste people would wholeheartedly still continue to vote for the prime minister.
Would you also say this entire thing of national pride and also a majoritarian narrative, which we cannot actually negate, that it appears that there is a bottomless pit of prejudice which was there all the time since independence, but which was never tapped by any political leader because it was felt that there is a very grave risk of risking security, internal security issues to come to the foreground. Would you say that has also contributed to a certain extent of the stabilization of the BJP as an electoral party? We very recently had a statement by the foreign minister, actually saying that the West should know that they should learn to behave and not be critical of Indians. I'm talking in the context of the various criticisms which have been voiced about Rahul Gandhi's disqualification and the deficit of democracy in India by Germany, by the American state. So would you say that this has also played an important role, that I am willing to sacrifice what is not available to me, but this is a sacrifice which I must pay for the sake of the nation?
Sure. When we talk of the so-called narrative, I think it has these three, in a sense, props. The one is that we are doing so much for the ordinary people, and
Right.
the government is for the people, the poor people, 140 crore, or for the
Exactly.
OBCs, whichever way. So that's one way the narrative develops.
It's been built.
The other is to connect everything to the idea of nation and nationalism. So whether it is the success in dealing with the pandemic, not just Pulwama, but success dealing with the pandemic or any other thing, foreign policy, for example, the extraordinary way in which foreign policy has been predominantly becoming an instrument of expression of nationalism. So it's not really policy, it's an expression of nationalism. And thirdly, which is related to it, is this majoritarianism in different parts of the country. One way or the other, I agree with you that that majoritarian tendency was with us always. And we were, as a society, able to keep it, if not under the wraps, at least under control. What has happened? Yeah, please go ahead.
I'm saying, that possibly the people felt that, there have been periods when they decided to adjust with each other, and there were times when actually the bubble burst, and then there used to be sporadic incidents of violence. But by and large, people knew that we have to live with each other. That sense has got increasingly fractured in recent years. Would you say that?
Sure, that's by majoritarian. I don't mean that something new has been created, but the way this relationship among communities has been managed so far is no more acceptable now. And instead of that, an idea that the majority should dominate and there is nothing morally wrong in it, but actually it is morally correct, democratically right for the majority community to dominate other communities. That sense has started pervading to different sections of the society.
Right. We are also in the middle of a fairly hectic campaign as far as Karnataka Assembly elections are concerned. And within a few months, there will be very crucial elections in several other states, including Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Telangana. In large number of areas through this year, the Congress and the BJP will be head-on-head, one-on-one contest will be witnessed. How do you see the opposition parties, engaging with each other?
At least in the states where the BJP and the Congress are head-on-head with each other, some parties would try to intervene in that, like the Aam Aadmi Party, for instance. and that may create complications for the Congress party. So the real issue for the Congress party would be twofold. One, to take on the BJP, and secondly, to adjust with the new claimants or new entrants in that state. Whereas in states like Karnataka, it would be more a matter of skill with the adjustment with the Janata Dal secular. So in any case, I think it is going to be a crucial test for the Congress party for all that they have done during the last 1 year to rejuvenate the party.
So would you say that, this is final question, that the actual picture for 2024 would start falling in place towards the end of 2023, by which time we would have all the results of elections, state elections in various states? That is when the opposition parties are going to decide that if we can have some kind of an adjustment.
Sure, I think all adjustments, coalitions, etc., would happen only at the last minute or maybe tacitly, rather than just having a grand front, etc. I don't think that grand front would anyway work. It would have to be a very nuanced adjustment at the state levels. And that would happen only after the outcome of these elections. But secondly, yes, 23 end would be crucial because the kind of popularity the Prime Minister has, if you want to puncture it, it has to be done closer to the election. There is no point in doing it today because by the time you go to the electorate 1 year later, he might still have recaptured that popularity. So both tactically and strategically, I think from 2023 latter half onwards, more so by the end of 23, the battle would begin shaping for 2024.
Right. One final question, from this. Recently, the Prime Minister has also started saying that because of these 14 parties which have combined to file a petition against enforcement agencies repeatedly investigating opposition parties. So Prime Minister Modi is once again saying that I am the one party who's being targeted by all. So this one versus all, this kind of a scenario, do you think that it is actually going to benefit Mr. Modi? So it is better for what you said, that let there be alliances, not a grand alliance, but maybe some kind of tactical adjustments. Would, as a somebody who studies data, do you think it is going to be more tough for the BJP that way?
Surely, right now, ganging up, and it would look as ganging up against Prime Minister, wouldn't really help at all. And Modi Hatao Desh Bachao can appear to be a very attractive slogan for a devoutly opposition candidate or worker. The ordinary person, it is a negative campaign. And sooner the opposition comes out of that negative campaign, the better for them.
There was another problem that towards the end of this year or early January 2024, you will have the inaugural of the Ram Mandir.
Oh, yes, but that inaugural has been well timed. It has been pre-planned. And we should not forget that the opposition party doesn't have anything to say about it, except perhaps saying that the Prime Minister is taking credit for it. So that is definitely going to change the entire way the country, and particularly the Hindu majority, would look upon the BJP. The BJP has created this psychology among the Hindus that a Ram Mandir is crucial to both Hindu identity and national identity. Having done that at the beginning of 2024 gives a huge advantage and creates a critical problem for the opposition.
Right, the Ram temple actually being plus both for the Hindu identity as well as also the national identity. From what you say, it definitely appears that it is advantage BJP at the moment, but well, no forecasting, just the way that you didn't actually spell out anything. Thank you very much, Professor Palshikar, for coming and joining us on this program and shedding very important, perspective on the way things are shaping up and the future developments in the next few months. Thank you very much, Professor Palshikar.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more interesting updates.